ecological spirituality is an internal response to an external crisis. So scientific data provide the evidence of this external crisis that we can then work on so that we respond in perhaps a spiritual manner, as well as we work on our motivations, the way we behave, the way we act and interact. And so, for example, we would be looking at how can we be more attentive. Attentiveness is one of spiritual responses. How can we be grateful for the gifts of creation, including human beings? How can we restrain ourselves so that we sometimes put limits on our consumption, behavior, actions, motivations, desire? And so science is very important. It provides the data and some understanding. We also need motivation and some sort of spiritual practice so that we enact what is needed, that we meet the response needed also from the inside towards the external crises. Integration begins when we bring together practice, justice, and formation. Practice, it's important that we do something. It's not just about thinking or desiring or sometimes praying or meditating. All that is great and necessary. There needs to be action that is measurable, sometimes quantifiable, so that we can evaluate it. It's also very important that we add elements of justice. There are communities and individuals out there, sometimes in our own midst, that suffer from climate change, from biodiversity loss, from being persecuted because they stand and defend their land. So there are important justice questions, environmental justice, climate justice, and beyond. And there also needs to be formation. We need to be formed day by day, not just students and not just teachers, but everybody. We need formation so that the practices that we put into existence or action are sustainable over a long period of time. In any collaboration, especially global, I think it's very important we begin with listening. We have to listen to one another, and I think our role as we are building this network, we constantly have to listen to our partners, stakeholders. These could be people that we do research with. These could be people that count on us in terms of doing more environmental justice or bringing data out there from their communities so they're displayed in the world. But it's always about this humble approach towards the other, as well as towards the creation, that we listen. We also need to design processes through which this global collaboration can happen, through meetings, through different audits, through how we are accountable to ourselves as we do research, especially as we do what we call transdisciplinary research. How do we bring together different partners and stakeholders so that it's not just about one or two disciplines? Interdisciplinary activities are already demanding, but to have a transdisciplinary one, it means that we need to do this with those that are most affected. We need to do research with the poor. We need to do research on behalf and with the creation that surrounds us. And there also need to be structures that allow for this kind of collaboration, as well as often some funding and resources. So in terms of research and teaching, and then bringing this out there. For example, what we often do is that the research that we conduct in different parts of the world, we then bring it to different arenas. Not just the academia, but also climate COPs, biodiversity COPs. We go to those meetings. Sometimes we want to affect policy and so on. I would advise this to anyone, especially also young people. Learn to listen. It's very important. I know it's hard sometimes. Why do I have to listen? Nobody listens to me. I think the best way for us to be listened to is to listen ourselves first to others. Perhaps to God or the divine, to listen to the creation as well as listening to ourselves. I think this is also a part of the strong Jesuit Ignatian tradition, knowing oneself, being sometimes introspective with regards to where am I, where are we, where are the others. I think listening is important. Practice is also an important step. And you can practice or start small. It doesn't have to be big. Perhaps a few steps, perhaps to say, I will pick a period of 90 days and I will begin with what I have. I don't need to have big, huge resources. Perhaps it's enough to say, well, maybe I could start with the way I travel to the university, or with the way I fly airplanes, if I need to, or with the way I eat, or with the way I recycle. But you start small, but you start, you do something. I think that is also very important. I think the first approach would be curriculum integration. Often universities work together, different departments with students, to design curricula that help students to have a holistic picture, that they know that things are interconnected. The next step could be experiential learning. Opportunities of learning do not take place only in the classroom, but perhaps on a farm, on a wetland, in a forest, in a business place, in a factory, and learn from their own practices. So it's to diversify the way we receive and produce knowledge. I think another opportunity for university is to continue to look for formation opportunities. Where are the best places where we can be formed, not just educated, as a whole person? Sometimes this is the chapel, sometimes it's the library, sometimes this could be a community, and sometimes it is our room, our home, online, sometimes even AI. There are other ways of taking an academic institution forward, which is ethical and technical infrastructure. Are there any codices or the ways that help us, such as policies, design our own activities? What is ethical? What kind of equipment are we using? What is our waste policy? Do we have any carbon policy with regards to electricity consumption? I know that the buildings here at Loyola are platinum certified, which is excellent. However, there are still steps that could be done. For example, how do we commute as we come to on this campus, because we know it's not in the city center. University can give support towards small pilots. You can imagine that a team of 5 or 10 students with a professor and somebody from the administration receives a small grant to work on water management or to work on biodiversity of the campus. Perhaps some of the ground could be unsealed and more living creatures be put there, plants and animals, insects, birds. There could be, I'm fascinated by birds, there could be a bird group, you know, and they would be observing birds and seeing what kind of ecosystem helps them better to maybe stay on campus, because we know birds are excellent for biodiversity, and we could go on and on with more proposals.